Alright, today we're going to be unboxing, taking a look at, and reviewing the Flux Defense Raider X. So the way this video is going to be kind of structured is I'm going to unbox this, show you guys all the new features and differences. Then I'm going to take it out to the range and then come back and give you guys my final thoughts and opinions on the Raider X. Alright, I'm interrupting today's video to talk to you about the sponsor, and that's GunMag Warehouse. They sent over their unorthodox slap loader. SLAP stands for single load and press. So this is a speed loader. They also make this for Glock magazines. This one today, you'll see me using throughout the video, is for P320 magazines. So the really cool thing about this is the way that it works. It's very different than your traditional speed loaders. So on the bottom here, it's gonna be a rubber base pad to prevent it from slipping on a table. You have a spring-loaded mechanism on the top here, and right here is gonna be the chute for inserting your ammunition. So I'll demonstrate how it works. We're gonna be using Blazer 124 grain FMJs. So I'll grab a few rounds here. You're gonna take your magazine and face it in this direction, so away from the chute where the round goes. You're gonna take your bullet, you're gonna insert it in here with the bullet facing down, and just push down on your magazine. You can see I've got a round loaded there. Let's show that again. Very cool and extremely easy to use. I'm sure everybody's familiar with the other versions of speed loaders, and they're not terrible. They do work, but I tend to like this one. It's a lot more intuitive to use. Also note, on the side here is going to be a little tab, and that's for stripping ammunition out of your magazine. So it's also a downloader as well. So if you guys have any questions on the unorthodox slap loader by GunMag Warehouse, drop a comment down below. Otherwise, I'll have a link in the description if you guys are looking to purchase one of these. Now back to the video. So this is an improvement over the Flux Raider, where they've made a couple of different improvements, changes to the finish and overall ergonomics and the way that it fits with aftermarket parts, as well as durability. I'll highlight a few of those as I go over the features of the platform itself. So in the box, you're going to get the Raider X, a warning sticker, as well as an installation guide, different warnings, and then you've got a QR code up here for a video that they've made on how to install this or install your fire control unit into the Raider X platform. So just because of how YouTube is structured, I'm going to keep this one to the unboxing and review, and I'll make a separate video on how to install your FCU into the Raider X, just so I can keep this video up and exactly how I want it to be. But yeah, this is the Raider X. So this is offered in black and FDE. And one thing I do want to mention prior to starting this is if you're installing an M17 or M18 with a manual safety, they do recommend that you get the safety delete pin from SIG, and that's this part number here, 1300674-R. So it's just a pin that you install into your FCU to remove the manual safety on that. They do in here have guides on cutting out the material needed to have the manual safety, but they do recommend against doing that, as it would, I guess, void the warranty or otherwise could cause problems with your Raider X. So the material here, I'm going to start with the frame itself, the FDE portion. So this is one area where they did improve the surface finish to reduce on light reflection. The frame itself is constructed of polymer, and the same material here is used on the safety selector, also a polymer. So there are some parts that they are still using selective laser sintering or SLS printed parts. That's going to be the back cap here, the side panel where it says Raider, and the two magazine releases in the front, this one here, and then the paddle magazine release. Those are all going to be made using SLS printed parts. SLS printing is a very advanced process, and the original Flux Defense MP17, the entire thing was printed using SLS. I have no problems with SLS printing parts or even 3D printed parts, but SLS, as far as manufacturing goes, it's used in a lot of different applications, and you can almost hardly tell that it's even 3D printed at all. It's using a laser system with polymer powder and using the laser to basically fuse the powder together in the shape that you want it to be. So it's a very strong process. I definitely don't want to say 3D printed and people get the assumption that it's low quality, but yeah, no, these are very high quality printed parts. And lastly, I'll go over the steel parts. So the steel parts are going to be your magazine release, the brace arms on both sides, as well as the brace lever release, and the side plate with your QD mounting point, and then you have a QD mounting cup on the brace itself. Those are all constructed of steel. As far as the coating goes, I'm not 100% sure. I did reach out to Flux Defense to ask them what the coating or what type of steel it was, and they did not get back to me. So your guess is as good as mine as far as what that's made of. So going back to the frame, and one of the changes they made was how they manufacture this. This was manufactured using an injection molding process. With injection molding, you kind of have two ways of doing so. You have a single gate and dual gate. The single gate, as the name implies, is there's one point of injection of molten plastic, as opposed to dual, where you have 2 points of injection to inject a molten plastic. They switched this over from a dual gate to single, and they state the reasons for that was to reduce the chance of nit lines. And what that is when you have 2 points of molten plastic and those 2 points meet together in the middle, sometimes at that point of meeting, the plastic does not fuse together. So that's why they went with a single gate injection molding process. So the grip is definitely changed as far as what I'm familiar with on the MP17. I did never get a chance to look at the original Raider, but this grip is definitely way better than the MP17's grip. So you're gonna have serrations on the front as well as in the rear, and then the side texturing, they say, is a little bit rougher than the original Raider, but a very welcome difference when compared to the MP17. The magwell is also extremely flared and has guide rails to guide the magazine in, as well as in the front. You also are going to have those same guide rails for putting in your additional magazine in the front. The front has no sort of serrations, as this is intended to be a grip to hold on to, but that is the front magazine well. Up top is going to be a 4-section Picatinny rail for mounting basically any size red dot. You could mount EOTech holographic sight up here. I do plan on mounting the EOTech EFLX on top here. And then in the back, you can use this hole for looking at your backup iron sights that are on the pistol slide itself, but they also sell an optional back plate that does cover this hole up to reduce gas blowback to the user's face. However, with my MP17, I've never complained about having any gas blowback to my face, and I definitely think this will be an improvement because the brace is longer than it was before on the MP17. So on the frame itself, you are going to have 2 window cutouts, one on the right and one on the left. And up front is going to be a 3-section Picatinny rail for mounting any lights or lasers. And then also on the left and right hand side are going to be 2 holes, and those are accessory mounting points. So Flux Defense does make some Picatinny rail sections that you can put in there, but then there's also Tactical Development, which is kind of a third-party accessory maker for the Raider X and P365 platform. They make rail attachments where you basically you can get a whole extended rail on the Raider X. They're kind of proprietary. You do need a mounting plate on the back and then screws need to go through those rails, but nice that they include that. And on the side here, as I mentioned, there is a QD attachment point. The one thing I wish they would have changed comparing this to the Raider is I do wish that they would have added stops inside of here. These are both free spinning QD mounting points. I do wish that they had locking points inside of there. Other than that, not a whole lot I can think of yet as far as changes that I can come up with. So back to the brace. The brace itself is going to be constructed of injection molded plastic, and it does have a little bit of gripping on the side here if you're using it on your wrist or on your forearm, and they do sell a replacement stock. So it'll be this full piece will be filled in basically, but this one right here is just the pistol brace. So to release the brace, you're going to push down on this lever. It's going to shoot out like that. You can see that tension spring there that holds the brace and brace rails under tension while it is in the forward position. So if you push down on this rail, you're going to have sections where you can adjust the length. So you'll feel it lock in there. And the next section right there. Nice that they included some adjustment there. So you are going to have 4 points of adjustment. It's probably about 1.5 inches of adjustment on your length. In the back is going to be an Allen key, and that's for if you need to adjust anything on here. It's basically going to fit all of the Allen screws and not the torque screws. So your Allen screws are going to be here. The tension spring that was also included on the MP17, an Allen key for any adjustments. Onto the controls. So like I said earlier, if you have an M17 or M18 fire control unit that you're using with this, like I am, you are going to have to remove your safety. So what they did here was include a manual safety selector that disengages the trigger on the fire control unit, and that safety is ambidextrous, as you can see here. They do sell a safety delete kit, so you can delete the right side or left side safety. And finally, the magazine release system. It can look complicated and sound complicated until I kind of explain when you would use which magazine release and at what time you would use them. So on the entire frame, there are going to be 3 magazine releases. So I've got 2 empty mags here. I'll go ahead and show you guys how those different magazine releases are used. This one here, positioned basically where your typical P320 magazine release would be. That's going to release only the rear magazine. You have another one on the right side, and this one is only going to control your primary magazine release. Again, and this one's positioned almost exactly where you would expect your AR magazine release to be. And to get the magazine out of the front, you do a half press here, and you can feel a stop when you push on this paddle right here. So you just do a half press and it'll release that front mag. Now, if you do a full press, you'll see it brings forward your primary magazine release, and it's going to release this rear one as well as the front one to do a reload. So I'll demonstrate that again. You do a half press to just release the front one. You do a full press to release both. So I think once I get some range time with this and kind of get my hands on firing it, I think that this won't be as complicated as it looks, but time will tell. So I'm going to get this built up, put my optic on it, put my fire control unit in there, and then take this out to the range. And like I said, I'll film the installation in a separate video for you guys to look and see how I did that. But it's going out to the range. So on to the review portion of the Raider X. I'm going to keep this specific to the Raider X as opposed to the various accessories I've attached and different things I've done to it. I do plan on releasing a video in the future where I will discuss the different accessories I've attached and kind of how I built this out for myself. And that's really the cool thing about the Raider X is you can build it for yourself to basically fulfill any role that you see fit. So I always like to start my reviews off with the negatives, just because I feel like your first impressions shouldn't always be positive. You kind of want to hear the negatives first, and then I'll move on to the positives. So the first thing I do want to state is the QD cups, and I mentioned this at the top of the unboxing. I do wish that these both were anti-rotation. Essentially what that does is it kind of gives you 4 different stopping points to where there's just slight movement of the QD attachment as opposed to a full spin. So that kind of keeps the gun locked in a particular way that you like to use it. And most of my ARs and most things are using anti-rotation cups, so I do wish that they would do that. And the last thing I have to say regarding any negatives isn't really specific to the Raider itself, but it's kind of inherent in its overall design. And basically what it is a chassis system that you put your fire control unit, and it's kind of inherent to the P320 more or less, and that has to do with the slide stop. So let me push the brace out. The slide stop, basically anytime that you're using it, you probably saw this in the shooting footage, you do have to break your grip. So whether that's holding the slide to the rear or releasing it like this, you are going to have to break your primary grip, or you can break your secondary grip, but that kind of feels awkward. You could also use a charger handle if you have one. Yeah, I would say I wish that someone would either come up with something that would kind of pull the slide stop down a little, maybe forward, just something a little bit different that would make this slide stop, slide release action a little bit easier. So on to the positives. Like I said, I did have the MP17 to begin with, the original one, and even that thing was awesome. This just takes it to a whole nother level. It's extremely compact, lightweight. Like the negative thing I said regarding it being a P320, it's kind of just as good as the pistol you put into it, or fire control unit, slide, and barrel. And I don't really like the P320 as a pistol format. However, in this format, I very much enjoy shooting it. It's an amazing pistol to shoot. And the Raider X itself is kind of in its own unique position, because there is the Roni, and that kind of design kind of makes it a little bit more bulky. You have to put the pistol inside of a chassis, and yeah, you can still use it as a pistol, but it doesn't really fulfill the same role as this as far as being as compact. And being able to utilize a gun that I already owned, I didn't really like shooting, but being able to put it into something I actually do enjoy shooting is really cool. There's also a huge third-party accessory market for this. I do plan on putting a video out on the compensator itself, but this was made specifically for this platform. And there's other accessories out there that are specific to this platform that I'll get into in another video, but having that aftermarket support I think is really cool. It allows you to expand the Raider X exactly into a role that you see fit. So whether that's home defense or security or whatever role you want to place this in, you can pretty much attach anything to it. During my time at the range, I had 0 malfunctions, and the same can be said for my original MP17. And even if there were any malfunctions in terms of your typical firearm malfunctions, I would more or less place that blame on the FCU, barrel, and slide that I put on here. It'd be hard to blame the Raider X. So the final question, do I recommend this? I definitely do. If you can get one and afford one, I would definitely say go ahead and get it. The comparisons to this are kind of in the B&T realm, and you're talking similar pricing without optic and everything else. So you can kind of get into this for a lower price than you could a B&T. So one other variant I didn't mention at the top too is there's also the partnership that Flux did with Sig Sauer, and that's the Legion Raider X or Raider X Legion. It comes in that Legion gray, and it comes with a Legion size slide. And it's an overall very well put together package with the Legion one. So I definitely would recommend that you either get the Legion one so you don't have to worry about getting a new FCU or taking your FCU apart. Or if you have a P320 and you don't exactly like shooting it as a pistol, I would definitely recommend you just get this and throw it in there and leave it. So like I said, I do plan on doing a video in the future on the various accessories I've placed on here. And the first thing I plan on replacing is going to be this optic mounting plate. One, I don't think it looks very great. And two, a single point of retention on the pick rail, I don't think instills too much confidence in me that it's going to hold 0. Now, it did hold 0 during my time at the range, but that is going to be the first thing I replace. So I'll discuss that more in the future video I plan on releasing. But if you guys have any questions on the Flux Defense Raider X, drop a comment down below, and I'll do my best to get back with you. Thank y'all for watching.